Good morning, Grandview Gators. Here we are in Mrs. Snively's backyard. I thought this would be a nice setting for our Earth Day book this week. This one is especially for 5th grade. It's called Pedal Power: How One Community Became the Bicycle Capital of the World. This is a story of Amsterdam, and many of us have visited Amsterdam, and we know that it's famous for its bicycles, and it wasn't always this way. I love this story because it helps us remember that when we are little and we make our pledges and promises to the earth, we grow up and we are meant to keep those pledges and promises and take action to help our environment. You know, today if you visit Amsterdam, you'll see bikes everywhere, but they rule the road, but that wasn't always the case. 50 years ago, Amsterdam was so crowded with vehicles that bicyclists could hardly move. We'll see what happens and how appropriate as our Earth Day celebrations are 50 years old this year. Pedal Power by Allan Drummond. It's a little bit reflecty when I'm outside. Also, you might be hearing some ambient noise from people having their construction and cars going by. Well, that's all right. You also may notice that in this book, 50 years ago was not the common practice to wear helmets. Of course, we wear helmets when we are riding our bikes today. Today, if you visit the city of Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, you will see people on bicycles buzzing about everywhere. Over canal bridges, down narrow streets, across busy roads, ding, ding, ding. To school, to work, to shop, to visit friends. All kinds of bikes. Thousands of bikes, more bikes than cars. Look at that. Amsterdam is known worldwide as the capital city of cycling. Cars and trucks are allowed on the streets, but they have to drive carefully. Bikes rule the road. But it wasn't always like this. In the 1970s, Amsterdam, like most big cities, had a lot of vehicle traffic, and the roads were starting to become too dangerous for cyclists. So how did Amsterdam become the bike capital of the world? Well, it took some very special people to make that change. Young moms like Martje Rutten and her friends and their children. Every day, Martje and her son saw fine old buildings being destroyed to make way for gigantic highways. Extra wide streets and long, dark tunnels were built for all the new vehicle traffic, but there was no space for bicycles. Crossing the huge, busy roads by bicycle became almost impossible. Taking a bike to school or work to visit friends was a dangerous thing to do. "Something's wrong," said Martje. "The roads belong to all of us, not just to cars and trucks." Her friends agreed. Cities like Amsterdam need bikes. Everyone began to speak up. Word got around and people started protesting, not just in Amsterdam, but all over the Netherlands. At first, the demonstrations were great fun. People even held parties in the middle of the road. "Give us back our streets," they cried. Crowds gathered outside the Dutch Prime Minister's house. They chanted songs and called for change. Children banded together and proclaimed that some roads should be closed to make play streets. Television and newspaper reporters loved all the stories. The protests seemed like great fun. But then, one terrible day, a different story appeared in the news. A young girl cycling to school had been killed by a car. The child's father, Vic Langenhoff, was a newspaper reporter, and he wrote something that hardly anyone could believe. This year, 500 children have been killed on the roads of our country. Many of them were riding bikes. It was true. The situation was deadly serious. Something had to be done. Now, everyone was angry. The marches got noisier. More and more people came out onto the streets to demand safe places to walk and cycle. Meanwhile, drivers were angry too. The country was running out of fuel, and the government announced a new regulation: no cars in Amsterdam on Sunday. Oh, excuse me, I skipped a sentence. And that gave Marcia an incredible idea. "We'll cycle through the big new tunnel. We'll show them," she said. "But it's against the law. The tunnel is only for cars," her friends cried. "That's exactly the problem," said Marcia. "We need to take back the roads." The streets of Amsterdam were silent when Marcia, her friends, and their children gathered at the mouth of the tunnel. "We can't," someone said. "Who knows what will happen to us?" But Marcia was determined. "Let's do it. Today's the day," she shouted, and they all set off into the darkness. The sound of bicycle bells echoed off the tunnel walls. Down, down, and along they went. As they rode toward the brightness at the other end, they saw policemen, flashing lights, waiting ahead. "It's the cops!" someone shouted. "Let's turn back." "Keep going," said Marcia. She stood up on her pedals and pushed on. The police had blocked the road. "This is a cars-only tunnel," they said. "You cyclists have broken the law." The officers lifted up the children and their little bikes and put them into police cars. It's just not safe," they said. Back at the police station, everyone was served lemonade and cookies. "That's strange," thought Marcia, and she noticed that the policemen were smiling just a little bit. That wasn't so bad. Maybe all of this protesting is working, she thought. And she was quite right. The day was just beginning. Marcia and her friends came up with lots of good ideas to allow bikes, people, and cars to all share the streets peacefully. They proposed special bike lanes on busy routes, traffic bumps and curves in the roads to slow down vehicles, and new laws giving bikes the right-of-way over cars. And finally, people listened. Amsterdam led the way, and that's why it's called the bike capital of the world. Today, we see these ideas at work all over, from Tokyo to New York City and all over China. The city of Paris, France, has 18,000 bikes available for people to share. London, England offers 8,000 bikes. And in the United States, Chicago has nearly 5,000 bikes available. And Shanghai, China offers 50,000 for visitors and residents to ride. And cycling keeps you fit, a bike is quiet, it takes up less space on the road, and of course, it doesn't pollute the air. A bike doesn't need fuel, our legs do it all. And what happened to Marcia Rutten? Well, today her name is Marcia van Putten, and you can still see her whizzing around the streets of Amsterdam on her bike. Now that's pedal power. There is an interesting video on the library website. You go to grandviewlibrary.info, click the Read Alouds tab for this year, of course 2019-20, and scroll down to the week of April 20th, down under the 5th grade area where you'll see the book cover of Pedal Power, there is a video of Amsterdam's efforts, how it became the bike capital of the world. Well, boys and girls, thank you for joining me in my garden today. I would love to share with you a story another time, but for now, goodbye. Have a great day.